Hey, everybody. David Swor here once again with DJ Cox for another episode of Frenemies. And DJ, it's great to have another former teammate on here, Mr. Ron Fenwick. How's it going, buddy?
Hey, man, it's going good. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. So Ron had he was not only a teammate, but he was also an arch nemesis there for a couple of years. Went on to a great career with Lee, and we're going to get into all that later. But Ron, I knew I always liked you, and I didn't know you were a Yankee fan, so now we know why. So let's start out talking some Yankees, man. The Yankees have been tearing it up. They were winning when I turned it off a minute ago, which would have made 10 straight. And, man, they're winning it with a bunch of just retreads, to be honest. Andrew Velasquez and Nestor Cortez and all these guys. So what do you think about the Yankees right now?
Man, honestly, yeah, it's great to see the way they're playing. I mean, it all boils down and same old, beating a dead horse back into the bullpen. Britton just went on the IL and he's not been good this year. And then Chapman, you never know if he's going to hit, somebody in the head or bounce it or strike everybody out.
Yep.
You never know. To me, it comes down to that. I mean, to me, the biggest reason they've been winning is guys like Velasquez and Tyler Wade. And then I think, them trading for Rizzo, I think it ticked off Voit, and he was a 22nd rounder back in the day, and that's already a chip on his shoulder. He's not supposed to be a big leaguer in the first place. And I think they're playing with a little fire, but when you get guys like Velasquez and Wade on base, and they've had some other guys, I could name them for, 3 minutes right now. I saw a thing the other day. They were second in the league in stolen bases in the second half, and they were dead last in the first half.
Yep.
That lights a spark. You guys, obviously, you played, we all get it. My big thing is I love pitchers that can throw strikes, locate the baseball. I love guys that can play defense, run, put the ball in play, move stuff around. And watching the Yankees strike out or hit a home run or walk, that it's not fun to watch. And I can't even root for that. Like I'll root for Tampa Bay. I mean, Tampa Bay they play good baseball, and everybody hates on them because they have the worst stadium ever. 10 times worse than Oakland, the worst stadium ever.
Ooh,
and half the fans, they'll get 8,000. Oakland might get 16, but they play good baseball and they're fun to watch.
Yeah.
You might not know all their names. Obviously, we all know Nelson Cruz and guys like that, but they play better baseball, and the Yankees have played better baseball lately. I think if they continue to play that, they're going to be pretty good. Or Odor cannot play third. He's awful at third, but he never played third. He played 900 and something games at second base with the Rangers and then the Yankees, and then they're like, oh, hey, go play third. That's not a quick shift. I mean, that throw and the angles and as I recall, his errors are not fielding, they're throwing. That's totally different from catching the ball and pulling it out of your right pocket and just slinging it to first. And then, oh, wait, I got to get on top and throw a strike. No, he airmails it. He bounces it.
Yeah.
It's a bad spot, but LeMahieu hurt his shoulder. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I mean, they're good. They're very good. But again, the back end of the bullpen. I mean, to me.
It is. Me and DJ text back and forth a lot through some of these Yankee games. Man, outside of Loizaga, that bullpen is shaky. So both of you guys are into coaching. I got a question for you. So last time we had a podcast, DJ, the Yankees had 20 players on the IL, 20. And since that time, all these guys have come up like Velasquez and filled in. So what are you going to do with Gleyber Torres when he comes back?
DJ, take that.
This is a tough one.
You can't have that many second basemen. So, I mean.
Yeah, that's tough. Tough, man. Gleyber Torres, to me, is better than those guys, to be honest with you. I don't know how you keep Gleyber out of the lineup when he comes back.
Offensively or defensively?
Yeah, that's the problem.
Offensively, yeah. And so, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like the Yankees, Ron was texting us about this earlier. Like, if you're going to get Voit into the lineup and you're going to get Torres into the lineup, you have like 9 stud hitters, but are you going to sacrifice the defense? Because that's what you're going to do a little bit here if you want to plug them all in there. So it's going to be very interesting how Boone handles this coming up.
Yeah, and the problem is Torres has not been a stud hitter. He's hitting about 250 with very little power. Now he was getting hot before he got injured, but man, they've been so good with Velasquez at shortstop. He's so good. He's definitely won them a couple games.
He's got energy.
Yeah,
He's got energy. He's got a lot of energy.
Man, I'm just going to have they've been so good. I'm just going to have a tough time plugging Torres back in. I mean, you got to. He's the future, right? But he might be the future at second base. And LeMahieu play.
I think they'll trade him. I think they'll trade him. And a lot of my people say he's going to get traded to Colorado for Story if he doesn't hit free agent. I mean, I've heard a lot of different stuff, and I don't know if Story's the guy either, though, because he's the same strikeout or bomb guy, way better defensively. But is he that guy? I mean, Trey Turner was the guy that I'm like, that's the guy, and then obviously he went to LA and the rich get richer. I mean, good Lord.
No. Wow.
Yeah.
If they don't win, something's wrong,
Yep.
They got like 4 of my 5 favorite players, and I'm like, really? All on one team,
I agree.
I think it's just going to, I don't know, man. It's just how much do you want to mess with that chemistry? And Ron, you talked about the pitching a little bit. The rotation or the bullpen has been really shaky, but the rotation has been the bomb. And a lot of that is Nestor Cortez. So I don't know. Have you guys seen Nestor Cortez pitch?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's from Cuba. Yeah.
I love it, man. The hesitation in the wind up. He's got the stash rolling. And again, it begs the question, what are you going to do with Nestor Cortez when all these guys come back and everybody gets healthy? I mean, it's a great problem to have, but, if Boone doesn't manage this just right, that, you could really upset the cohesiveness of the team.
I mean, DJ, I might have cut you off if you were about to respond to that.
Nope.
I apologize. The problem is Boone doesn't make those decisions necessarily. Those decisions are made upstairs.
Yeah.
And some of it even goes over Cashman's head. I know that. I played a long time. I got way too many friends, places, and we talk. And the manager, a lot of times, especially in the American League, he's just a puppet.
Yeah.
I mean, especially the American League, because you don't have to, when do I hit for this guy? Because, he's at 87 pitches, but he's given up 1 run and, but we're down by a run. There's not a real science to managing the American League. It's like, all right, we need a new pitcher. All right, put him in. And a lot of those decisions, though, go over those guys' head. I've got really good friends of mine that have lost jobs, even in the big leagues, because they didn't agree with what they were told to do. And they're like, no, I'm not doing that. And next thing you know, they're out the door. And you're like, really? How are you going to fire that guy? They do. But no, he's definitely got a good problem, because, I mean, good Lord, Montgomery, I think his name was Jordan Montgomery, the dude from South Carolina. He was pitching tonight against Atlanta, and they've been real hot. And he was sort of kind of mowing them, last time I looked.
Yeah.
I think he gave up a home run to somebody, but he was kind of mowing, and Atlanta's hot, but Atlanta's also hot in the NL East. The NL East is awful. Like, it's probably the worst division in baseball as far as top to bottom competitiveness. I mean, think about it. When you're like a game under 500, you're like 4 or 5 games out, like your division's not very good.
Yeah.
Are you guys watching that game at all?
What, that game?
Yeah, the game tonight, the Yankee game tonight. Were you guys watching it? So it was really interesting.
No, I was listening to it a little bit ago when I was in the shower, but yeah, no.
So this is the kind of stuff where Boone can drive you crazy, and it worked out great tonight. So Jordan Montgomery, like you said, man, he's just mowing them down. He's been hot. At the end of 5 innings, he was like at 70-some pitches, and Boone pulled him. Top of the lineup was coming up, and of course, Loizaga comes in and just,
Shoves.
Oh yeah, man, just he's unreal. If
Jonathan, he's good.
most underrated reliever in the game. I'm serious. He's nasty.
Right.
But it was just so weird, man. If I'm Jordan Montgomery, I'm ticked off. But like I said, it's hard to argue. They've won 10 straight. On July the 5th, the Yankees were 10.5 games out of the wild card spot, and now they're in the wild card spot. So it's pretty
Crazy.
wild.
Yeah.
I think. So as far as the Yankee update goes, DJ, it's been pretty awesome. So let's hear about those Cubs here for a minute.
Yeah, so this will be fast. And Ron,
I'm not hating on the Cubs.
I know you're not. I know you're not.
Stockpiling like the Orioles.
Yeah.
Stockpiling. We might
Lord.
lose 18 straight, but we got guys in the farm.
We're definitely stockpiling, man. There's no doubt about it. 13 losses in a row at home. That's tough.
That's an all-time record, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That's bad. That's bad.
It's very bad. You go from being in first place, and I know it wasn't long. It was April and May, but they were contending there for a little while, and they've just become one of the bottom 7 teams in baseball. It's been awful since the trade deadline. But it's basically been Kyle Hendricks pitching, and then the next 4 days we pray that it rains really hard so we don't have to play the next 4 games, and then go back to Kyle Hendricks. But it's been awful. Took 2 or 3 from the Reds this week, who have just climbed into the second wild card spot. So that was a nice win in the series. Lost all 3 to the Royals at home. Not good, obviously. Just currently beginning a 3-gamer against the Rockies before we go to the Cell this weekend, Comiskey, to play the White Sox in what will be the Cubs World Series for the year, because this is all we have to look forward to is try to beat them in this series. So that's something to look forward to at least keep Cubs fans watching when we're playing the White Sox, even though that we have a very bad shot on that one. Rafael Ortega, really quick here, batting .302 with 6 homers and 19 ribbies. He's got one of the guys that's been kind of looking for a role here to see if they're going to keep him moving forward. I've really enjoyed watching him play. One guy I want to mention real quick, Michael Hermosillo, 26-year-old, used to beat up on my alma mater, now playing for the Cubs, his hometown team. He just went yard in a Cubs uniform, which he said was a dream come true. He was a 28th round pick, which, and Ron, you can probably attest to this, man. It doesn't matter where you go, what road you go through. You can do it no matter what. And he proved you can do it. My buddy Greg Gould posted how he hit the bomb. Brian Lown, a former coach of mine, says, and I quote, he hit a ball off of us his senior year in high school that still hasn't landed yet. And it was probably 35 degrees at best. So he's an absolute stud. Cody Dryden was quoted as saying, that guy's a demigod, and any sport he played, he was the man. So he's getting an audition here too. As far as will he stick, it's a dream come true for him, obviously, to be playing at Wrigley Field for the Cubs. Just a little shout out, and like somebody to keep an eye on, Cubs fans. Hometown guy there, trying to make the squad for next year moving forward, getting a little bit of a chance right now. Not playing a whole lot. Still got guys like Jason Hayward filling right field for no reason whatsoever. Yeah. So that's about all I really had to talk about them, man. It's been brutal. And I am looking forward to this weekend, though, when they play the White Sox, and we're going to get them because that's all I got to look forward to.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, nobody's going to look forward to it more than Leland and Audrey. So they're going to every game. That's so awesome. Anybody that DJ roots for, Ron, my kids root against him. So it's awesome. I feel like I passed it down somehow. I don't even know how that happened, but anyway, it's pretty awesome. Hey, before we jump into our next topic, I can't believe I forgot to mention this, but Ron, you can chime in here. How cool is it that Andrew Velasquez is a Bronx guy? I can't believe I forgot to talk about that, but he literally hits his first home run in Yankee Stadium, gets to point up to his parents as he does. I mean,
grandma was crying, and I saw the highlight of it, but that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I mean, I want to say he was like a 7th rounder, maybe. Diamondbacks. I'm pretty sure it was Diamondbacks, and bounced around a little bit. But I mean, even in the 7th round, their top guys are top 5 guys. I mean, that's why last year, the COVID year, they only had 5 rounds. Those are the guys. Everybody else is pretty much putting on a uniform so those guys can play. If something great happens out of that, it still is kind of the chain of command down the line, like seniority. It's like, well, I mean, if a guy that's a free agent or gets signed out of independent balls or, is a 30th rounder, if he makes it to the big league, some scout's probably losing his job. And that's not a joke. I mean, they're looking for the high round guys, but a dude like that, I mean, gets up, he's scrappy, kind of reminds me of DJ, even though DJ hit on the wrong side of the plate. But, sorry, DJ, but lefties, but he's like, what?
No,
he's
cool.
like, I just
I'll
wanted to
take
get a
it.
Coke, my bad. But no, he plays hard. I love guys that play defense. They play hard, they'll get dirty, and you get to play. I mean, he grew up in the Bronx, and everybody thinks New York. If you've ever been to the Bronx, like, it ain't New York City. It is, but it's over there. Like, it's not the nicest place ever.
Right.
Like, it's the hood. And I mean, you might want to carry your switchblade just to go to class type thing. And I know he went to like Fordham Prep or something like that, but I guarantee he didn't grow up in a luxury home, or he didn't. Like, he grew up kind of in the hood if he was in the Bronx. And for a kid like that to get a shot, even, it's probably most likely will be a brief shot. That's awesome. You got to love it. That play he made the other day, again, it was against Boston to end the game,
Yes.
where third baseman dove and it went and he slid and then they challenged it. I'm like, dang. I'm like, that's might be one of the not only like top play of the week, but that might be like one of the top 10 plays of the year.
Yeah.
When they rewind, at the end of the year, you're like, that was a really good play.
Yeah.
And no, you got to like it for a guy like that. It's great. I mean, it makes you as a player, you're like, wow, all right, cool.
Yeah.
But then again, I mean, it's all about what your teammates say about you too. I mean, because there's guys in the big leagues that have hit 500 home runs and are in the Hall of Fame. And if you ask anybody that play with them, and I have friends like that, I'm like, hey, what do you think about da da da? And they're like, bleep 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 that guy, and you're like, really? I'm like, he was one of my favorite players. And like, not if you knew him. And you're like, terrible teammate. Really? They weren't good guys. And a lot of times you look back and you look at, did their teams win? Maybe to an extent, but they weren't always, just because their numbers were there, they weren't always the guy that like carried the team. You know what I mean? Like, they were just good, and other guys like, nah, I don't like that guy. He's a jerk, type thing.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So
Yep.
when you see a young guy like that, there's no way he walks in the New York Yankees clubhouse cocky. He might be a little bit, like, what's up, man? Cocky, but he's not walking in there like, slapping Aaron Judge's coffee out of his hand, going,
Right.
all right, guys, I'm there for you. Not like that, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. Boone said in one of his post-game interviews he wanted to keep him out of camp, and he said, I just liked his energy. So I don't think he's going anywhere, but pretty cool story. So Ron, you were talking about 500 homer guys. Let's talk about one of the good guys here today. So this past week, Miguel Cabrera hit his 500th homer. You guys talk about him a little bit.
So Ron, man, here's something that what you just talked about, how guys, a lot of people will not like certain players. If somebody doesn't like Miguel Cabrera, then they probably are the guy that you're talking about, because Miguel Cabrera has done a lot for the Tigers. He's done a lot for the young players in the Tigers organization. He is a great human being, and the clubhouse goes through him, man, and what a guy to go through. To see him hit 500, and he struggled to get to it a little bit, and he kind of knew he would after a couple days. He knew it would take a little while. It's just hard because the whole world's watching you, and they're not expecting you, hey, you went 2 for 4. I mean, that's a great day, but that's kind of a disappointment, and you're kind of under that pressure of you have to hit a bomb or your day was bad when you're on a number like that, if you know what I mean. So he finally got it, Sunday, which was yesterday. And the guy was already a Hall of Famer, regardless of if he hit the 500th homer or not. But, man, he's a lock now, obviously, and couldn't have happened to a greater guy. And he was just – I remember him coming up with the Marlins when he was a kid, and killing the Cubs in the 03 series, and that still hurts to this day. That one does. And man, and then we went to the Tigers, and what a stud. Couldn't happen to a greater guy. I'm really happy for him. And he's batting like 311 for his career. So the man just he's not one dimensional. He can also hit the ball, which, and you hear a lot of people talk, Ron, about how, Miggy might be one of the greatest right-handed hitters of all time. And I think you got to put him on, at least the top 10 of that discussion for all time top right-handed hitters that this game has ever seen. So what do you think, Ron?
I can't disagree. I mean, I went and watched him play against the Rangers last month when they were in town, and for no other reason, and the Tigers, they've been kind of hot lately, but they weren't at the time, and the Rangers obviously not good. And I went and watched him play, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going. Miguel Cabrera, first ballot, unanimous Hall of Famer. Anybody votes against him is an idiot.
Yep.
I want to see him play. I think he went 1 for 4 that day, hit a single, whatever, and he was at like, I want to say 495 or 496, something like that. It might have been 90. It was like 5th of July or something like that. I went, but I'm like, yeah, he's always been one of my favorite players. Never really ruffles any feathers. He's kind of in the Pujols conversation, like people like him. You don't hear guys say negative about Albert Pujols. It doesn't matter. I'm not a Cardinals fan. I always liked him though. Like,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, I'm not a Red Sox fan. One of my favorite players is Xander Bogaerts. Dude's great. I love watching the guy play baseball. And they've had a lot of them. Ortiz loved them, And Cabrera, the thing that always impressed me the most about him is he never tried to hit for power. He always went right center, right center, right center, right center. And it was only fitting that his 500th home run, where did he hit it?
Yep.
Deep right center. I mean, you could call that center. It wasn't right field, but it was right. I mean, it was a bomb. And anybody who's ever seen that guy, and I remember when he came up playing third, he could pick it. Pick it. And he's always been good at first, but everybody who's ever played with the guy is like, he's awesome. One of my buddies played with him in Detroit about 4 years ago. And he was like, dude's just awesome. He was like, I promise you, he doesn't even know my name, but he treats me like I played here forever. Every day. Walks in, high fives me, and he's like, that dude's like a good dude,
Yeah.
So no, I think it's great. I'm very happy for him. Like you said, I mean, he didn't need that accolade to be a Hall of Famer because he's been one for years.
Yep.
I mean, he won a Triple Crown. And you see how he runs? You see how he runs? Are you kidding me? If he could run like Kenny Lofton, he might have hit 500. I mean, are you serious? Like, he's great. Like, hands down, like one of the best ever. Not just in our lifetime, ever.
Yep.
Yeah.
First Venezuelan guy to hit 500 too. That was pretty cool too.
No doubt.
It's crazy because I feel like because he didn't play for the big names, he was a little bit underappreciated, honestly. I mean, I don't know if you guys feel that way or not, but you stick that guy in a Yankees uniform or Red Sox uniform, one of these big towns or whatever. I mean, you feel like you would have heard a lot more about him, but he, like you said, one of the top 10 greatest right-handed hitters ever. And it's sad to see him failing a little bit. The last few years have been kind of rough, but what a great career.
No,
so
I agree. He was great.
Let's transition here a little bit. Also, some Tigers news on the sad side. Bill Freehan passed away this week. Longtime Tigers catcher. To be honest with you, DJ, I'm just going to be straight honest. I didn't know a whole lot about him until I went back and looked at his career some today. And great player, 11 All-Star games, won a World Series with the Tigers. So talk a little bit about Bill Freehan.
Yeah, man, you nailed it on the head. 1,591 career hits and 200 homers. And man, we talk about this with Fred McGriff all the time on 493, man. What if Freehan would have hit 199? It just looks so different, man. When you have that round number and you go above a milestone number like that, 200 on the nose home runs looks so much better than 199. So I'm glad he got to that mark. 758 RBI, 44 career WAR, which is really good, man. And this guy, like you said, 11-time All-Star from 1964 to 1975. He was the guy, man, like the catcher for the American League every year. And if you look back on his stats, you see why. Like this was not a hitter's era by any means. This was a pitcher's era. And when you see Bob Gibson and those guys that were pitching during that time, it was a pitcher's era, and he hit really good during that time that he was there. Finished second in the MVP voting in 1968, 84 ribbies, and third in the MVP in 67. So he was right there for possible MVP 2 years out of the, and another thing really cool too. And we talked about this with Velasquez and Hermosillo here. He was born in Detroit and played his whole career for the Tigers. And he went to the University of Michigan where he played baseball and football. So to be able to play high school ball, college ball, and pro ball in your backyard has got to be just an absolute dream come true. 1968 world champion, died of Alzheimer's at the age of 79. If you've had anybody go through that, you know how terrible that is. So praying for his family. Played with the great Al Kaline for a long time. Those two were just awesome together. 16th highest WAR all time for a catcher, David. 16th
Wow.
all time. Unbelievable. So very tough to see that happen. And, these are guys, none of us here, three of us, were all the same age, and we didn't get to see that era of baseball, obviously. So that's kind of that 60s into 70s era is kind of a tough era as far as, the history of it all is really tough for us to, we're not as good with the history of that time frame, I should say. So seeing these kind of guys get recognized a little bit, obviously not the way you want him to get recognized through death, but what a great career, and rest in peace to him.
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, let's jump in before we get into the bulk of the show here and talk about Ron a little bit. Let's talk about the standings. And so I want to start out there in the NL West. DJ, the Giants are still there. They will not go away. Dodgers have closed the gap a little bit. And then, surprisingly, San Diego now has fallen out of the wild card. So talk about that a little
Slam
bit.
Diego.
Yeah. Slam Diego is getting their playoff hopes slammed away, man. I tell you what, the Padres are in trouble, man. And I never thought I would say this. Like just 2 weeks ago, they were a lock to be a wild card, and all of a sudden here come the Reds. But the Giants are the first team to 80 wins. They've beaten that race. They're there. The Dodgers are 2.5 back. They got to all the way within 1.5, and then that changed a little bit. I'm telling you, man. The more that you kind of look into the statistics of the Giants, the more you kind of understand what is going on there. Man, they've got the pitching right now. They got 3 horse. Alex Wood, David, is dominating this year. Alex Wood. I would have never thought he would have came back and done what he's done this year. He is destroying the league. It's unbelievable. So a lot of credit to him. That's one guy I want to give a shout out to when we're talking about the Giants tonight. The Dodgers, like Ron was saying earlier, it's so much fun to watch these guys. Like they have an all-star team. They're going to be there. And it hasn't changed. Those three have been 1, 2, 3 all year. They got what? Max. Yeah. Yep. So I mean, I don't know. It's unreal. San Diego's got to get going here, man. And part of the Padres' problem has been injuries. I mean, Darvish has been out. When your starting pitchers are going out, Tatis has been hurt, who is the MVP, even though he's been on the DL twice. But man, they got to get going, and they got swept away this past weekend. So they're struggling big time. And Larry Rothschild, I don't know if you guys just saw, but the pitching coach for the Padres just got fired tonight. So he's the fall guy for what's been going on there. And
you said it right, the fall guy.
Yep.
Not his fault.
You got it.
He doesn't have a 5.32 ERA. He's just
right
there.
And I hate to keep going back to the Yankees, but when the Yankees are going through all the turmoil, and I'll raise my hand and say I was one of the guys that said, hey, man, something's got to give here. Changes need to happen. And Cashman said all along, those midseason changes usually don't change anything. And so I'm like you, Ron. Firing Rothschild's not going to solve anything. Those guys just got to play better.
Well, like they always say, the numbers on the back of the baseball cards usually end up adding up.
Yep.
I mean, guys that struggle, oh my gosh, he's struggling. He does all right. Guys that do too well, you're like, what? And it is what it is. But I think San Diego's I think they're toast. I'd write them off right now if it was me. And as good as the Dodgers are, everybody keeps saying the Giants. Oh, no, no. I'm like you just said, first team to 80 wins.
Yeah.
Somebody tell them they're not supposed to be there.
Right.
Right.
You know, I mean, how do you dislike them? I mean,
That's exactly right. That's what I was going to say. I'm pulling for them. I'm rooting for them. I never
Yeah.
even pay attention to the Giants, to be honest with you, but I just think it's cool. You know, they're kind of the anti-Dodgers, to be honest with you. I mean, they're built a completely
absolutely.
different way.
That's their rival too. So obviously, you know, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty cool. And to make matters worse, guys, Cincinnati statistically has the easiest schedule the rest of the way out.
Good point. And the Padres have one of the toughest.
Yeah. So it's, that's the closest team to me is Cincinnati. So it's pretty cool to see them succeed. It's been a while. But man, the Reds are hot. And, we talked about this earlier in the year. You could kind of see this coming. Just some things had to fall into place for it to happen. And all of a sudden they have. What do you guys think about the Reds?
if you don't want them to win, you pay off Joey Votto or tell him to get hurt. Like,
That's DJ's favorite player, man.
dude, he can break when he wants to, and he'll tell you about it. And I mean, he's always been like that, though. He's a Canadian dude, kind of a weird cat, And he's like, I'm locked in. I've heard him say some weird stuff, and he's like,
oh yeah,
I'm locked in right now. I'm trying to hit home runs. And you're like, really? It's that easy for you? And then all of a sudden, he's like, whack, whack, whack. And you're like, dang,
Yep.
all right,
might be
you
wrong,
are that
but
good.
I'm thinking 19 homers since the All-Star break. Is that right, guys?
Yep, sounds about right.
Yeah, that would probably be conservative, but yeah, about right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. They're good. I mean, what do you say? I mean, they're good. I mean, there's
Yeah.
nobody else. Obviously, Milwaukee. They're good. They're really good. They're really, really good.
Yep.
I think they're probably the most under the radar team that you could even talk about, whether it talks about division or wild card or whatever. Milwaukee, nobody ever talks about them.
Sure.
They're really good.
Yeah.
Now Yelich looks like he's healthy, and don't let him get hot.
They'd be unstoppable because they had good rotation, good bullpen.
Yeah.
Yeah. If Yelich
They're
were to get
good. And they have a likable cast of characters too, I mean, not all of them are real well known, but likable people, I mean, you're like, yeah, I want to see that guy do good.
Yeah.
That's good. Don't get to the NL East.
Well, we're getting ready to head there. So right now, Milwaukee's up 7.5 games. St. Louis, for whatever reason, thinks they're still in it, DJ.
No, bye.
That's what I say. Yeah.
See you later.
Still, the two biggest head-scratching trades of the year for me were J-Hap for Gant and them getting Lester. I thought that was so weird.
Johnny Lester. Yeah. He's always a Red Sox to me, but yeah.
Yeah. DJ says he's always up, but
always a Cub, absolutely.
Yeah.
Part of the 16 team, so he's got to be.
So let's jump into the AL East. So things are finally kind of shaking out. DJ has Atlanta, so Ron, winning the World Series this year.
Gosh.
What? Yeah. Well, this was before all these preseason predictions, so this was before Acuna went down. But
Atlanta?
There they are, man. First place, 9-1 in their last 10.
You might want to call Vegas on that.
Yeah, I should, man. I should.
Wow. Philadelphia hanging in there 4.5 out. The Mets falling like a rock, 2-8 in the last 10. What do you guys think about the East?
The Mets are who I thought they were. David, I'm going to ride you on this one because you said the Mets were going to win this division this year. So I'm still going to give you credit about that because you gave me so much about the Angels last year. The Mets are your team. You're going to fall onto the sword.
Hey,
to the Mets.
Making me laugh.
Ron, you got to go back and watch those episodes. You got to go back and watch the Angels episode. DJ had this love affair. It was weird. It was. I was uncomfortable with it. That's how weird. Dylan Bundy was his
great
boy.
hat, but no. I mean, come on.
The great hat.
Angels got a great hat. I'll give them that.
Well,
So
the
back-
Phillies, David, the
uh,
Phillies kind of fell off a little bit here too, man. They went into first place there and 4-6 in their last 10. And it's got to be so frustrating for them playing so well, getting into first place. And now they're not even, they're 5 back in the division and the wild card. They're 5 back. So not a good week at all for the Phillies after having a good comeback there.
No, I just can't believe in. I love Joe Girardi, but just for whatever reason, I just can't believe in the Phillies. They got a bunch of great players. They just don't have a great team. Zach Wheeler, can make a Cy Young case for him. Bryce Harper, you can make an MVP case for him, but just can't seem to put the whole team together for whatever reason. So moving over to the AL West, not much has changed there. Houston still up 3.5 games. Oakland kind of had a rough week, going 3-7, which puts them out of the wild card picture for right now. Seattle a little further back. Looks like they're kind of tailing off. What do you guys think about the West?
The A's are who they thought. I can't even say it. The A's are who I thought they were, David. They're out of the playoffs. I called that. You did not.
Really? You're calling them out of the playoffs?
I am.
Wild
Yeah.
card? Really? Okay.
I mean, we talked
That's an
about
early
this a lot,
call.
Ron.
But okay.
They like, I got to give them respect from the fact that they have no payroll and they still find ways to win, and they've done it consistently for a lot of years now. And I just thought the train was ready to derail before the season started and that they wouldn't make the playoffs. And man, to their credit, they've hung in this long. And if the Yankees keep going like they are, then the A's are out, man. It really looks that way. So
Okay.
yeah.
I gotta stop you. I just gotta stop you. Are you going to tell me that you think that Oakland is worse than the Red Sox? Seriously?
I do, man. I think they're worse than the Red Sox. I really do. I think there are 3 teams in the East there that are better than the A's, and the A's will not make the playoffs. I will stand by that.
Ron, fight DJ right there.
I like Oakland. I mean,
I do too.
they're scrappy.
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
are.
I'm not calling either them or Boston bad. I mean, Boston wasn't supposed to be good this year. They don't suck, and they're not
No.
awful.
My problem with Boston was and still is their pitching, and they did nothing to address it at the deadline. Sales come back, and that's obviously really helpful.
But gosh, they can hit.
yeah.
Can hit.
Yes.
I'm like, shit.
Yep.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah. One of the guys said today, he was like, "Oh, the Rangers about to take 2 out of 3," and I'm like, "What's the situation? 2 outs, runner on first, Rangers up by 1, and it's like the 11th inning." I'm like, "Who's it?" And he's like, "Devers," and I'm like, "Yeah, don't count that yet."
Yeah.
Whack off the wall. Next inning, grand slam, walk off. My bad.
Yeah. Red Sox can't.
I can't disagree with DJ, but it's Oakland. Oakland's net like Tampa. They're never supposed to be good. They don't pay anybody.
Right.
One of my really good friends, Todd Walker, who played for the Red Sox, Cubs, a bunch of teams, he said Oakland is where players go to die. He goes, when you go to Oakland, that's the end of your career. You know it. Because he went and he was like, nope, I knew it. Like, Adam Dunn went there. He goes, yep, he's done. End of his career. Last stop. You either come up with them, you make a name for yourself, you put up some numbers, and then they get rid of you or don't sign you. They trade you or don't sign you because they don't want to pay you, or they get guys, like Moneyball. It's not, crazy. I mean, they really do. They bring in 2 like Voit and Rizzo, or obviously the Yankees aren't doing that, but I'm saying, he's like, oh, he got 2 hits today. I'm in there today. All right, the heck with you, type thing.
Yep.
But they're doing it to keep a job. These guys are doing it to, starting for the Yankees. In Oakland, they just don't care. They've always, their whole organization has been like that our entire lifetimes. I have a lot of friends that play with Oakland, and they're like, man, you play for the Yankees, you got to have your hair cut short, clean shaved, and no jewelry. And Oakland, they didn't care. They said they'd get off the freaking bus and A-ball, AA, long hair and a beard and flip-flops. And they never cared if you could play baseball. And it's not just something new. Even when they won back in the 80s and 70s, they were always like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe different people there now calling the shots a little different, but I don't know. I don't discredit Oakland. I mean, they're one of those teams. Every time they play, I'm like, yeah, I like them. I mean, they were the original white cleat team along with the
Yeah.
Astros back in the day. And the
True.
Astros, of course, the Astros also wore a white uniform the whole time too. If y'all remember that, or am I the old one here? Yeah, they
No,
had
I
like a
remember
year or two in like the late '80s or '90s where they wore the same uniform every game. Yeah, home or road. But no, the Oakland A's. I mean, they're good. Chicago White Sox, they're good. I mean,
Yeah. So let's talk about them. First place, DJ loves talking about the White Sox. They're up 9 games. That they're in the playoffs, DJ. I mean, I don't know what the magic number is, but it's not low enough. They're in. Cleveland's back 9 games. Detroit's 12 games. So, man, the White Sox are tough. The Yankees just came through there. They did take 2 of 3. Obviously, the Field of Dreams game didn't work out how we wanted it to. But, man, that bullpen, Kimbrell, Liam Hendricks, all those guys they have in the back end of that bullpen is killer. Great rotation. Eloy Jimenez is back now. He's hitting. Luis Robert is back. It's all lining up, DJ.
I have no comment. They're going to lose this weekend to the Cubs. That's all I'm going to say.
No. Let's jump over in the East. We'll wrap it up here. Tampa Bay feeling it slip away, DJ. Yankees are only 4 games back. Boston, had a mediocre week, 5-5. The big surprise is Toronto.
Yeah.
I can't believe 3-7 in their last 10. They just seem like they're so far out. What's the problem, DJ?
Well, I got to watch them tonight because the White Sox were playing them, obviously, and Nicole wants to watch them. So, yeah, I'm telling you, man, I don't really have a case to watch the Cubs anymore, so I got to watch a lot of White Sox games now. So, the Blue Jays, man, I don't know. I'll tell you, Marcus Simeon's defense has looked pretty horrific at second base the last couple of days, and he cost them the game yesterday. But man, I don't know. It's really kind of head scratching with all the talent that they've got. You know what? I really believe this. And it doesn't happen all the time. But these guys are just so young in general. They're just taking their lumps. They're in the. Let's just be honest. That's the toughest division of baseball right there. And when Toronto, is in 4th place with all the talent they have, it kind of solidifies that fact. You punt the Orioles at the end there, but those 4 teams are very good and would contend in every other division in baseball. But they're just taking their lumps, man. They're just young. They're learning,
I gotta stop it. How long is a team just young? This is like the 3rd year that Toronto's just young, and this is why they can't win.
You go from young to veteran to old.
I mean,
quick.
At what point they got to turn around? We've been talking about all these great young players, and they've added these guys. I mean, they got to start winning, right?
Yeah, they do. I mean, you're right, because you're not going to have all of them together for very long. So that's a good point. But these dudes are 23 years old, man. They are. And they're just, I mean, these guys came right up right away and taking their lumps, man. It just is what it is. And Gurriel's a good player. They're all just raw, man. They're raw talent. And, it's kind of disappointing that they're 64-58, to be honest with you, because I thought that they would be a whole lot better than that. They've kind of, I mean, the thing that's funny is they're only 5 back in the wild card, so they're not out of it by any means, and it'll be interesting to see what they do down the stretch.
I would like to know why Simeon never moved to second base.
Yeah.
I don't get, I mean, Bichette, I get it. You talk about young. I mean, he's young. Simeon's not. He's been in the big leagues for a long time. I don't move him over. Simeon's my shortstop. It's probably has to do with the little clubhouse move too there.
Yep.
I promise you, no matter what he says in public, kind of like I watched the Cleveland Indians guys have to sit there and wear it at Williamsport yesterday, talking to kids with masks on, and kids are being smart Alex to them, and they're like, "Oh, okay," and they're all smiling. None of them can say anything negative because they're going to get blasted if they do. Simeon don't want to play second base. He's a shortstop. He's been a shortstop since he came up. Ron Washington, he went from like a big era guy to like not many era guy at short. and rakes, he don't want to play second base.
Yeah.
Bichette can slide over. He can go play somewhere else. Like, he's young, so to speak. Is he your guy? But at the same time, if I'm Simeon, don't bring me in. Don't pay me all this money and then slide me over out of position. It's kind of like
That's
the
what I would say.
A-Rod thing back in the day. Like, supposedly they were kind of buddies before they ever played New York together. They hated each other.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it was that. And looking back at it at the time, was A-Rod probably a better shortstop than Jeter? Yeah, he was. But he wasn't the guy in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Never was. Still it. I still call him A-Fraud, A-Roy. Like, don't
Amen.
like him. Never liked him.
Good.
But
We like you even more now for saying that.
leave it. Marcus Semien, leave him at shortstop. Put Bichette somewhere else. That's one of my takes. Now, that doesn't, say anything for the ERA and the bullpen and the starters and all that, but sometimes chemistry is a big deal.
Absolutely.
Ask LeBron James that. They just signed everybody 35 and over, and bet you $100 right now they will not win the NBA championship next year.
I even
They
like you
signed
even more for
everybody.
saying that
They
too.
won't win. Just saying, and I'm actually a Laker fan, but I'm like, really? What?
Yeah.
What? You're signing this guy? Like, maybe there's somebody out there that'll still sign me, but like baseball. But I don't know. That's just my take. I saw that and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You don't move that guy over. Like, you trade him, you talk to him before he signs. You let that kind of be his deal. You don't go, hey, we're moving you over to second base. Like, what? Okay. He's a 30 home run guy. He might have 30 now. I don't even know. Does he?
I'm not
Mm,
I
sure.
haven't kept up with Toronto lately, but if he doesn't, he's got a lot.
yeah. He was unreal the first half of the year. I haven't heard as much lately.
And now
But-
they don't, they don't really look at batting average and all. I mean, which is crazy to me because that's still the mark of a good hitter. But
so
they
Simeon,
don't.
71, 30 homers, 73 RB.
30 and 70 is that what you said? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Like the other day I went and watched Seattle. I like Seager, Kyle Seager. He's been in the league forever. Like, he's having a terrible year. He's in like 220. But then I look up and he's like 20 something and 80, and I'm like, okay, he's not having a terrible year. Average doesn't look like it, but he's putting up his numbers. I don't know. You don't mess with a lot of chemistry. That's just my opinion,
Yeah. Well, something's definitely going on there. It's going to be interesting to see over the next couple of weeks how this all pans out. Toronto is still dangerous. They got Barrios and Rays turned his career around. So going to be interesting to see how it all lines out.
No doubt.
So, Ron, we're going to transition this part of the show to where we talk about you a little bit.
All
so I definitely remember showing up in 1999, the fall of 99, as a cocky little kid out on shortstop.
You say cocky?
Yeah, man. That was in a good way. So, if I'm not mistaken, are you a New Jersey guy?
No, I'm from Maryland. I'm from
Maryland.
Baltimore.
So we talk about this sometimes,
Close, though. It's not far.
I get thrown into the Northern guy conversation too, DJ Northern guy. So we weren't in the Southern clique there, but me and DJ have talked about this a lot, man. If you'd have stayed around. So, but before we get into that, tell us about high school baseball, how you got to Temple. Just take us through your baseball career a little bit.
Man, I went to Riverdale Baptist High School, Upper Marlboro, Maryland. I went there on a baseball scholarship, and I actually never played on a baseball team until I got there. I never played growing up. I mean, I played like in the yard and, with friends. We used to play, old people talk about, backyard football. We played baseball like that. I didn't play. My dad was a preacher, so he was very adamant that I was not going to play on Sundays or Wednesdays and miss church, and, and all the leagues, required games on those days. But he sent me when I was 10, 11, and 12 years old. He sent me, there was a little Christian college back in the day. It was called Washington, D.C. even though it was in Maryland, Washington Bible College, and they had a baseball team. And he sent me their little camp, Cougar baseball camp, 3 summers in a row, 5 days, 8 to 3 or whatever. And 10, 11, and 12. I never played on a team ever. Like I just played at the house and we had a yard, I played. And all 3 years I came back with the most valuable player award, and I remember the coach hugging me and they begged my dad to let me play. And my dad goes, if he's good when he gets to high school, they'll know. They'll know. Like he's either good enough and he doesn't need that background or he's not good enough. And I used to hate it as a kid. It used to make me so mad. I'd be like, come on, for real? All these kids I know are playing and I'm like, that kid just made the all-star team and they're going to wherever to play and I'm better than him. I knew it because I'd play with him, pick up, and not just baseball, basketball, football, whatever. And sure enough, I was messing around and some guy that went to my dad's church, I'm striking out all these kids. I'm pitching and all these kids played at their high school and I'm striking them out. And I'm like, I don't know, 14, and he goes, are you Pastor Fenwick's son? I said, yeah, I am. And I'm like in dress pants and I'm outside of church after church, striking them out under the lights, not a baseball field, just against a brick wall, and next night, the phone rings and I hear my dad talking. He's like, okay, coach so-and-so, I hear him talking. He gets off the phone and he shook his head at me and he goes, I was right. I said, you were right about what? He said, I said if you were good enough when you were about to go to high school, people would notice. He said, you know who that was? I'm like, I don't know. He said, let me go talk to your mom. And I'm like, no, what do you tell me about that? So they don't tell me nothing. I go to bed like, what's going on? Next day he goes, you just got offered a scholarship to go to Riverdale Baptist and play baseball. At the time, and when I played there, Riverdale Baptist in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, was the top baseball program in the Washington, Maryland, DC area. Like, take out the private school, take up just period. State championships came later. I happened to play on the first 2 of them. Played in 4 state championship games. Lost the first 2. I wasn't on the field for my freshman year. I was in the dugout, but sophomore year lost it. Mark Teixeira took us deep. 1 lefty, 1 righty. Mount St. Joseph's. Junior, senior won it. They gave me a scholarship. I played baseball. We were good. And I was never their guy. But I was always good enough to be out there, like I put up my numbers, but DJ, I saw something, he was like, guys getting recruited or something. I looked at the lineup. My junior year of high school, I was one of only 2. I'm sorry. Yeah, my junior year, I was one of only 2 juniors on the field. And I started the year before that too. We had 7 seniors and they had all committed either D1 or JUCO. And there was only 1 JUCO commit, and he won a World Series with LSU in 2000 out of JUCO. So we were legit. In fact, 2018, they were the #1 USA Today national champs. And then, but we were all scholarshiped, nobody ever, whatever. But the high school decided to blah, 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 and they literally cut the baseball program. They don't have a program now. So
Wow.
but I still got my name on the wall of like 21 other guys that played there, that played pro ball, For now, my brother sends me pictures of it and I'm like, yeah, we'll take that down soon. But Riverdale Baptist, I was a Crusader. We had Michigan Wolverines colors, but we were the Crusaders. And we played good Lord. I mean, just growing up there, it gets cold, but no, we went to California, we went to Arizona, Florida, South Carolina, early, when the rest of them were still indoors, hitting or whatever. And we played a lot, and we just played a lot of baseball,
That's all. So how did you end up at little old Tennessee Temple in fall of '99?
Like I told you guys earlier, my dad was very adamant that I went to a Christian school, like big deal. big deal. And so I went to this little college, and I committed at Liberty out of high school. I wasn't going to be eligible. Didn't go through the right paperwork, clearinghouse, whatever. Back then, 98, 90, whatever year that was, 98. Yeah. And went to this little school, and it was in Florida. It was just so rinky dink. It wasn't even funny. I thought Florida, great, and I went down there, and I'm like, it was a joke. And so I come home, and I didn't know what to do. I played summer ball, wouldn't bat summer ball. And my dad was like, there's a school in Tennessee Temple, blah, blah, blah. And, next thing I know, I end up on campus, long story short. And I didn't know what to expect. I had no clue. I mean, I just showed up. And here we are, and it's kind of a blur. When DJ asked me about it, I'm like, man, I don't even remember that. Like, I do, but I don't, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Like, I just remember having to like tuck my shirt in and like collared shirts, and I never liked that, even to this day, as you can tell. Like, I'm just like, no, not doing that. But yeah, so I went, and for a semester, and then it just was kind of a different thing for me. And I was like, all I wanted to do was play ball, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And I came home, and my dad goes, go to one of those junior colleges. If they still want you, that's what he said. If they still want you, so this is emailing and sending out your hype video and all that junk. Like, this is picking up the phone and calling people. Hey coach, I talked to you. And he's like, well, I thought you went, and I did, but, and so I left, and I went to junior college, and then a lot of stuff happened after that. And I played a lot of baseball, for the next 15 years or whatever, just baseball, like tons of it.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about the Lee experience. Like I said, that was kind of Temple's arch rival, and let's just be honest, DJ. Ron got the better of us there for a couple of years. But you guys good teams. So run through that a little bit.
Why was that a rival? I've always wanted to know that.
Did you ever, like back in the day, like it was no joke. Like when my dad went to Temple in the 70s, for instance. There have always been some great basketball teams. So baseball wasn't as much as a rivalry, obviously, but man, there was some heated basketball games even while we were there, DJ. I don't know if you remember that. That's really the root of the rivalry was basketball.
The only difference is y'all probably only showed up to the game sober, and they weren't. No, I remember when I played baseball there, some guys would, they're like, and they were nuts, and they were going to go to the game and just taunt the Temple fans. And
they did.
I never got into that, though. Like, I mean, I can honestly say, other than the games we had to go to when I was at Lee, I might have went to 4 basketball games in a couple of years there. Like, I didn't do it. I didn't go to any of the other. My thing was, and it makes me a jerk, and it's probably why, if I was a jerk at Temple, I was always on a mission. My mission was I wanted to play professional baseball, and everything was always kind of a step, if that makes sense. And even at Lee, it was the same thing. I mean, I went there. I got my best friend in the world. I told DJ about it. He's the dude that hit that ball at Engle Stadium that like hit the gas station on the other side of the road against you guys. Dusty Griffiths, and he is from Georgia, lives in Georgia. I talk to him literally every day. And other than him, a couple others that I stay in touch with that were roommates or teammates or whatever, but man, I haven't been back there. I think the last time I've even been to Cleveland, Tennessee's 07. And that was stopping through when I was coming back from the Atlantic League when I was living in Louisiana. But no, it wasn't bad. I mean, I got treated great at Lee. I mean, I guess you just look at it different. I mean, the older you get, I mean, compared to Temple, I mean, it was like night and day, as far as like strict but at the same time, I was always just kind of gonna do my own thing and go to class, but I didn't have to tuck my shirt in there.
So
and I almost got expelled because we weren't allowed to wear shorts. That was the only rule at Lee. But the girls could wear like super duper mini skirts. And one day it's hot, and one of my professors says, Fenwick, you can't wear shorts to class. I'm like, but she can. She's wearing a dress, and I threw a fit. Next thing you know, I'm in like the campus pastor's office, and which he's awesome. Jimmy, I can't even remember his last name, but he was awesome. And he was like, I know, there's a lot of double standards around here, but just go to class and keep winning. I'm like, yes, sir. Jimmy Harper, that was the name. He was great. I think his kid played there, but I don't know. That's been so long. And I think Lee's gotten a lot bigger since then. I get their emails and newsletters and stuff. I know they basically tore down most of their field and put a whole stadium in now. But
yeah, they're Division II now. So
yeah.
One of the other questions too, real quick here, have you talked to or kept in touch with a single person from Temple since you left there or no?
You.
Gotcha.
You. I mean, I know that sounds terrible, but I could pretty much say that most places I've been, I mean, which I guess it was different too, because I mean, we didn't have Instagram and Twitter and Facebook.
Right.
And,
true.
And a few years later, even, going into Lee, I mean, you had the phones with the cameras and you could text and, stuff like that. So, yeah, I kept in touch with a few more people from there, but, and a few from when I was at Seminole down in Florida. Yeah, a little bit, but I haven't, man. And when you asked me that question, I looked at it the other day and I was like, dang, I'm like, I'm just a bad person. I'm a bad friend to everybody. I never mean it that way. It's just I'm kind of quiet. I'm kind of private. If you get me talking, I'll talk your head off. But at the same time, it's like, I mean,
Well, it was
hey,
a short little.
How are you doing?
Yeah. You weren't there very long, so it's not like
No, had
maybe
I
if you're
been
there
there
for 4
at least
years, it'd have been different, but it just
oh
wasn't.
no, it'd be totally different.
Yeah, I get it.
Temple was a little too strict for me. Like, honestly, and I just all I could ever see in my life, in my future was baseball, baseball, baseball. And all I could think about was baseball. All I could ever be identified was as baseball. And I didn't even there. I mean, some dude comes walking out, the dorm and he plays soccer or basketball, and some girl's like, oh, hey, man. I'm like, I play baseball. You're like second tier. It was not like that at Lee. No, we were top tier. Even the basketball players know it was like, no. Like, you don't mess with the baseball guys. Like, but I always kind of had that chip on my shoulder. But when you're my size or your size, like, you have to have that to be kind of good. You know what I mean?
Yes, you do.
You got to be like, yeah, I'm going to get you. Oh, I'm too little. All right, I got you. Cool. All right, cool. But so now I'm terrible about that. I wish I was better, but it is what it is.
So when you finished up there at Lee, I mean, were there draft whispers? I mean, what were you hearing from
Kansas City? I really thought Kansas City was going to take me. And they told me they were going to draft me late. The scout was out of Nashville. Gosh, I cannot remember that guy's name. I ran into him later when I played in the Frontier League. I can't remember that guy's name off the top of my head, but no, they liked me, but they they were going to take me late, and and then they called and said, hey, go play in the Frontier League and see what happens.
I got you. So
and that didn't work because the only team that even wanted me was a team that doesn't exist now called the Richmond Roosters in Richmond, Indiana, which is probably the worst town I've ever been to in my entire life, and definitely the worst stadium. And no, I had to go try out, and I mean, in like multiple teams. And finally, a team in the Frontier League just south of Cincinnati, the Florence Freedom, asked me to come try out, and I did. And it was a process too. I mean, it was like 2-3 days. And they told me they didn't have a spot, and then I was actually living in Cleveland, Tennessee at the time still. And I was driving back, and I got to Lexington, and my phone rang, and it was Chris Hook, who is the pitching coach of the Milwaukee Brewers now, and he was our pitching coach there in Florence. And he said, "Is this Ron?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Can you talk for a second?" I said, "Yeah." Yeah, I had the old flip phone. And he said, "Can you pull over real quick?" He said, "Where you at?" I told him, "I'm there in Lexington." And he goes, "Turn around if you want to be a professional baseball player. We're going to sign you." One of our guys, one of our infielders got hurt tonight. And I was like, and I mean, I get it, but if you've never been through that, you don't know. I cried, I'm trying to call my parents and keep the monster jack plugged into the phone, and, and yeah. So, I mean, it wasn't an easy road. No, 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 no. It never was, and I had a lot of teams tell me, "Oh, we like you, but," or "We're going to sign you." But even in high school, Dodgers, "Oh, we're going to draft you. We're going to draft you late." Okay. Late means they're not going to draft you, and now they'll do it to kids, "We're going to draft you 6th round." You don't draft them at all. And I'm like, what? And I've heard the conversations. I'm like, don't ever, there's nothing close to almost being drafted unless they draft you. Horseshoes and hand grenades. That's the only almost in life. Like, no, they either draft you or they don't, you know? And it never comes down to a money thing, well, he decided he was going to do this because he said he wanted this much money. That's a bunch of junk. Those conversations never come up. They don't. The advisors or agents, I got friends that are agents, they tell them, do not open your mouth. If they draft you, wait and see what the offer is, and then we'll go from there. So that, I was going to go in the 5th round, but no, there's no but. You were not going in the 5th round type thing. And when you play as long as I did, you see through all that, you're like, yeah, okay, But at the same time, I've played with guys that were previous 1st rounders, and they were garbage. I've coached guys that were 4 years ago. We released 2 previous 1st rounders out of spring training in the American Association. I was the hitting coach.
Wow.
They couldn't hit. Some scout dropped the ball on them. It's like, oh yeah, he looks like Bo Jackson in BP, but he can't hit in the game. Like, can't. Can't catch up to a fastball. And if he does, he swings at one that bounces. He hits it backwards and then he swings at one that bounces. So you don't really weigh into that. I mean, you play long enough and you just kind of see it and you're just like, all right, cool, whatever. If that makes sense.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Ron, I think you're the only guy that I've played with that has a baseball reference page. DJ can correct me on that. But 8 years in independent ball.
9.
So 9 years. Okay. I'm
9.
sorry. So how was that? I mean, it looked like you had some, really awesome years there. What kept you coming back? I mean, was it just, the hope of moving on up? What kept you coming back?
I mean, obviously, I love playing baseball. I mean, I would love to play right this second. I'm just too old. Nobody wants you. So, you're just like, whatever. But no, I mean, there was always a drive. Like, my goal always was, I'm going to play 2 years of professional baseball at some level, no matter what, period. And you get a little taste of it and you're like, yeah, but I didn't hit good. I had this injury, I had that injury. My biggest flaw is I wanted to play every day. I grew up in Baltimore. Ripken played every day. Like, I wasn't him, obviously, but I'd get hurt and I'd play, like keep playing. And when I was at Lee, my '03, I I want to say we were playing at Martin Methodist, and I was playing third base, and some dude smashed the ball down the line. I went to backhand it, and it took some crazy hop like over my head, and I reached up with my bare hand to try to catch it, and it caught me like right here, and I couldn't feel my hand. Like, I mean, literally my hand like just bent, and I couldn't feel it. And I had to have a shot in that every day to numb it, just to free up the nerves in there to where I could even move my hand, but I had no feeling in it.
Mm.
And we got done, and it was probably 3 weeks, 4 weeks before I signed. 2 weeks later, I got my leg snapped, tore my meniscus, had 7 cracks in my tibia trying to turn a double play. I turned it. I didn't play for 8 weeks. I hit 185 that first year. And I went from a drop 3 metal bat to a wood bat. And even at that level in the Frontier League, you go to guys that are not splitting the plate with fastballs at 88. You got guys throwing 94 and it's doing this. They're like, oh, okay. I went from a first pitch fastball hitter to I can't hit, you know. And so you're like, I'm not going to stop now. Come back, play, make a little progress, you know, bounce around. And I mean, the biggest thing is you keep trying, you know, you move on a little bit. I don't know. The thing about it is that, and the one thing I miss about baseball, I don't even want to say it's the playing as much as the relationships, the friendships you bond, and the connections you make. You know, like I said, I mean, I have friends all over Major League Baseball. You know, I've been actively involved in baseball ever since it's been, next month will be 10 years since I played my last game. I have friends all over Major League Baseball, like good friends. You know, I still have teams I talk to. I was about yay close to getting a job last year before the COVID stuff with an organization as a hitting coach. I still have those connections there. I do some consulting and whatnot. And it's just the thing, you play and you just kind of want to figure out, all right, what can I do? Once it dawned on me, I'll never make the big leagues.
I got
And
you.
even if I sign, I went to 2 spring trainings. I went to spring training with the Pirates and the Tigers. You don't have numbers on that. I also played in Mexico and Winter Bowl 1 year. Once you figure out you're never their guy, you either got to decide, the heck with this, I'm done, or I'm going to play on my terms. And that I literally played probably the last 4 years like that. It was like, I'm going to play because I want to play. And if somebody's dumb enough to pay me, great, I'll play. I'll give them my best, you know? And so that's what I did with it, you know? I don't regret it, you know, looking back, you know, all of a sudden you go from 22 to 32 years old. You're like, wait, I didn't make any money doing that. You know, what did I do? That's the bad part, you know? But do I regret it? No, I do it again. If
Yeah.
anybody wanted it as bad as I did, do it. Yeah, do it. Play, you know?
So what's the best memory? What's your best memory from those years?
Man, honestly, my best memory, that's a tough one, man. 2008, 2008, I'm playing for Shreveport. We're playing in El Paso, and there's 13,000 people in the stands. 4th of July, 2008. My mom and dad flew out to watch me play, and Terry Bevington, who DJ would know, our old Chicago White Sox manager from the mid 90s, was my manager. Awesome guy. I love Bev to death. And he'd get thrown out like that, though. And no, he'd get beyond infuriated. Let me keep that Christian right there. And he'd call him every name in the book. 13,000 people there, 4th of July, waiting for fireworks. And I'm standing on deck. And we have runners on first and second. And I think we're down 2-0, 2 outs. And he rings the guy up, make it 2 outs. And no, I'm sorry, it was 2-1, first and second. Terry gets thrown out. Well, Terry would go irate when he get thrown out. Like it wasn't like you're gone, go sit down, he'd leave or, yak at him for a second. He'd go crazy. Like to the point they had like Texas state troopers walking down to like arrest him. And I'm on deck, I'm standing there and all these people are screaming and cussing at me in Spanish and English and whatever. But I saw my parents sitting up there and I came up and we were down 2-1. I hit a 2-run double in the gap. We went up, actually won the game. That's the worst team I think I ever played on, but we won the game 3-2. And I mean, it was kind of cool because you're like on the road. I always enjoyed being on the road more than at home. I always like getting booed more than cheered. Like, and I won the game. And I'm like, cool,
That's awesome.
I'm still second base. And parents were proud, and I lost my dad later that year. So, it was just one of those things. Like, yeah, that was the moment. There was moments, high school or college or, other times that were probably better than that, but that's the one that always stands out. I remember that. Like, that was cool,
Yeah, that's
I'm
awesome. So I was looking back at your.
boring, y'all.
Are you still there? There we go.
You
Sorry.
cut out, brother.
So I was looking back at your career, Ron, and 2 home runs. So how did that feel? That was only 2 home runs your whole career there. So how did that go?
Yeah, I hit a couple more in spring trainings and training camps or whatever, depending on where I was at. Hit one in Mexico. I remember those 2. The first one was in Fort Worth, Texas, and I couldn't see. It was a day game or early evening game, and the sun was shining off the batter's eye, and I couldn't see. All I knew is he threw a lot of fastballs, and I cheated, and I guessed, and I saw his hand come forward, and I went whack, and I hit it over like everything. And they had like a roof over the right field, and I just saw it. I know. I'm like, did I hit that? And I look up, and I'm gonna see it drop. And I come around and they're like, you just hit that ball like 420 feet. I'm like, no, I didn't. And they're like, no, really, you did. Like, that was a bomb. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I have no clue. I didn't ever saw the pitch, Other one, Atlantic League, Bridgeport, Connecticut. I want to say I hit that home run off the first Israeli born professional pitcher in America. I can't remember his name. He got his professional debut with Bridgeport in 2007. I played for him in 05. And 2-2, 3-2, I can't remember. He kept trying to sneak fastballs by me, but they looked like changeups, and I cheated on one, and they said it was a fastball, it looked like a changeup, and I hit it out to right over the Amtrak sign, and that was it. Never hit another one. Never really cared. That would never really, I didn't do that. Like, I heard Wade Boggs and Tony Gwynn say if they hit a home run in batting practice, they were doing something wrong. And I always worked on going the other way. Not to the point where I'm trying to hit the line, but left center, right center, but back to left center. And I always looked at it as, with my size, could I hit the ball out? Yeah. If we went to a park right now, could I hit the ball out? Absolutely. But I have to take what I call risky swings. And when I played guys my size, you didn't take risky swings. Now they all do. Like, I watch them and they just sit there and swing as hard as they can. They're not worried if they hit 180 or 200. That wasn't going to keep me in a job. It was get on base, get in front of guys. And I promise you right now, I probably ran around the bases 100 times with guys behind me that hit bombs and I was on base, and they appreciated the fact that I was on base. I hit behind guys. I mean, I didn't really figure out how to hit, because growing up, it was like fastball, throw me a fastball. As long as it wasn't in or up, like, I would swing. that didn't work real well later on. I learned how to go deeper in counts, but I was a type hitter. If there was a runner on second and no outs, my first goal was to get him over. A hit was a bonus, but I mean, I'd reach out, 2-0, I'd reach out and roll over a pitch and hit it the second to get him over, which, in my opinion, that should still be a sacrifice in baseball because I did it a lot. They don't do it now. I mean, they get
Right.
up gripping and ripping, trying to hit it 500 feet, and they strike out and they just walk back like, who cares? I don't like that, and if so, I wish they would have done that when I played because I wouldn't have done that. I'm like, good night. I'd have tried to hit it out of the park every time too. But I don't know, man. It's just when it comes to like playing, and it all comes down to like who can execute better. That's like I said earlier, Tampa Bay. I mean, they'll bunt a guy over. Even Houston, I know Houston's like taboo to talk about now, but they're good. Like they know how to do what they do and run and steal. And you're like, man, you might not like them, but that's how I grew up playing. Yeah, I wasn't a great base stealer. I mean, I stole a few bases in high school, stole them in college. Pro ball, and when I played in the Atlantic League was like a shade shy of the big leagues, like stupid good. Like I remember looking out on the field one night in '05, and I'm playing shortstop for Bridgeport because our shortstop that had played for the Red Sox, Tony Rodriguez, something happened, rolled his ankle or something. I looked around the field. I was the only guy that had not played in the big leagues in the last 3 years.
Mm.
I'd never even been affiliated ball. I was on the field with them, and it was good, really good baseball, really good baseball. Was I good enough to play there? No. But was I determined enough and work hard enough to be able to play there? Yeah. And I don't regret that. I don't look back on it, as a negative or whatever, but home runs, you can hit them, you can't, you
Yeah.
know. Good pitching is going to shut out good hitting all day long, you know. The dudes that can really hit, like Cabrera, like we talked about earlier, those are guys fun to watch because you're like, ooh, okay, dude can hit. I mean, doesn't mean he can hit bombs, but just flat out hit. And if
Yep.
you can do that too, you're great, you know. So
Right. So life after baseball, Ron. So what are you into now?
I'm still always in baseball, man. I'll probably be in a coffin before I'm out of baseball, but I teach hitting, teach infield, a lot of infield stuff, more hitting probably than anything. But I got some kids I work with. That's one of the big things lacking to me nowadays is nobody can play defense. You got guys that can blow it out. Even at 12, 13 years old, you got kids pumping 80, and you're like, wow, and then, they get up a little higher and they all think they can hit bombs. None of them can catch or throw a baseball. And you're like, wait a minute. And that's one thing I always prided myself on defense. Like we always worked on that. From the time I was a little kid, I could always catch and throw a ball. Catch, throw, like catch, throw, make it look pretty. My dad used to always say that, make it talk. He used to say that, make it talk. Like, can you shoot a basketball or can you make it look like Michael Jordan? And he talked like defense, like, and you guys know what I'm talking about. Like you'll see a kid, the ball gets hit to him, and they catch it and they throw it and he's out. But you're just like, okay, and then somebody that just makes it look like stupid, like, man, that looked too easy. And we always worked on that my whole life. And that's one thing I still stress to the kids I work with or kids I coach or whatever. It's like, be so good at it, it looks like you don't care. Like it's just too easy, He didn't even try. Well, that guy was out by 6 feet and dude sitting there catching the ball, flipping it back to the pitcher. I don't see anything wrong with that. Stuff like that, little things, the mental side of it. The longer you play, the more games you play in a season, the better the competition, the harder it gets between the ears. I mean, that's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I looked at it and it was psychological. You know, if I looked up at the scoreboard and it said I was hitting, 189, and I saw that on the scoreboard, I was mentally a 189 hitter. You know, if I looked up and it said, 325, I was the mayor. I'm like, what's up to the catcher? Like they do now. I didn't do all that junk, but I'm like, what's up, dude? How are you, man? What's up, man? Yeah, man. You know, and I realized, and it probably wasn't until I was almost done playing, it's so psychological. And that's the guys, they're like, oh, Miguel Cabrera can't hit anymore. He's hitting 241. I'm like, no. He's 311. And I promise you, he's still 311 right here. He can't run. He never has been able to, but mentally they get past that. And if you can psych yourself out as a player and take your mind somewhere else, you'll probably be pretty successful at what you do. Now, if you're throwing pitches down the middle and they're hitting them 400 feet every time, no, you can dream all you want and you still are garbage. But as a hitter, no. I had a year I hit like 205, and the next year I hit like 329. And I swear I hit the ball harder the year before. And I just hit it at people. They caught it every time. They caught it every day. Out, 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 out. It's like next year, broken bat, base hit. You're like, okay, thank you, Lord. But it happened. It never happened with the metal bat though. I never struggled. If I struggled, I don't really, there wasn't too many over days. I didn't break tons of records. I will say this: when I left Lee after my 2 years, of course they only had a program for like 8. I had both the batting average record and the on base percentage record and fewest strikeouts. Of course, that's all been broken because they've had guys play there for 4 years and they've had a team for the next, 18, 19 years. But they used to call me like Mr. Contact. I never thought of myself like that. I always thought I hit the ball hard. I hit line drives, got on base, and the guys behind me, drove me in. And that worked. If that makes sense. Yeah. So.
Ron, man, you had a great career. I've enjoyed getting to watch. We knew you were playing this whole time, and so it was cool getting to watch you, watch your stats and stuff there in independent leagues. And man, I'm glad you're doing well. DJ, do you have anything that you wanted to add?
No, I'm good, man. This was a lot of fun, Ron. It was good talking to you again.
No, I feel honored that you guys invited me in, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't let it be the last time you get on the show, man, for sure. Like, we'd love to have you on again sometime and talk more baseball with you, man. And like I said, man, we love having guests on, and especially guys who have played independent ball, minor league ball, stuff like that. It's just good to pick their brain and hear what it was like. And so thank you so much, Ron, for really coming on here, man. We do appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I appreciate it greatly.
Well,
Let's not
DJ,
be strangers. Let's talk some trash in a text message.
You got it.
That's
buddy.
right. Let's do it. We can do that.
All right, I'll talk to y'all later. Thank y'all.
Good having you, Ron.
All right, appreciate it. I'll talk to y'all later.
See you, Ron.